Well, Daniel, I appreciate you coming back onto the podcast and everything. It's always a pleasure getting to hang out with you and have you over here. So
Likewise.
I'm excited to kind of get this episode going. We're going over kind of part two of longevity. So last week we got to talk a lot about like nutrition and kind of like some of the science behind it, I would say. And so this week, what I want to kind of do is dip a little bit more into, I would say, almost like a few other areas of like exercise and movement, kind of a little bit more science, but getting into like the myths, I would say. So almost like some of the trends that we may see out there, and then some physical takeaways for listeners. So I think one of the first things that I want to go over would be just kind of with exercise and movement. Would you say cardio and or strength training is more important for longevity? Because I know with last time we kind of talked about like a little bit of how important your VO2 max is. But again, making sure we get, I think it was like around 150 minutes of movement per week at minimum. And so, especially with strength training, I know as we get older and our bodies kind of start to die on us, putting on muscle mass and doing strength training helps with our bone density and just building a healthier body. So, in the long run, which would you say probably has a bigger impact?
Bigger impact. There. I mean, the short answer is both, obviously, right? But if you were going to lean more in one direction, I would say that your conditioning should be better, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I say that is because if you look at all the blue zones around the world, okay, the places where people tend to live past 100 in higher proportions,
Yes.
they don't have gym memberships, right? They're doing things that are around their house, right? They're doing things that involve, like maybe town is 2 miles away, so they're walking to and from town.
Yeah.
They have, community things that they're doing. They're working out in the garden. They're doing manual labor stuff, right? You know what I mean? But it's not with the purpose of lifting as much as you possibly can, right? It's with the purpose of practical, functional, being able to carry things that, would be of normal weight, So things that are probably, usually no heavier than their own body weight, So muscle is super important, and I don't want to make it seem like, okay, just focus on conditioning, obviously, right? Like it's part of the endocrine system. So there's like different hormone signaling and enzymatic reactions that happen based off of muscle mass and tone and the utilization of those muscles, right? Like, we can get a little more into some of that too if you want to, but so muscle is obviously very, very important, right? But if I was going to gun to my head pick one or the other, definitely conditioning for sure, right?
Okay.
So the functioning of your cardiovascular and respiratory systems, right, is going to really tell us how well your body can utilize the energy that it takes in, right? And how well that blood, oxygen, and nutrient supply gets to your tissues and throughout the body and gets away from the tissues with the metabolic waste and everything, right? That is massively important, which is generally why the VO2 max is regarded as the highest longevity marker that we can measure, right? Okay. And then strength is a close second behind that, right? Which would be, usually they test grip strength, but it's not just how, your forearms dictate the length of your life.
Arm wrestlers aren't exactly going to be
exactly
our data for longevity.
Exactly. We haven't studied them yet. I don't know. Maybe they live a really long
time. You're not yet. It could be the next big thing.
Yeah, all these centenarians all just do arm wrestling all the time. That's their secret. So having said that, right, we want to make sure that, because excuse me, if there's somebody listening and they like to lift, but they don't like to do conditioning work, right, they are missing a big lever being pulled, right? If there's somebody that just does all conditioning work and they never really do any strength stuff, they're also missing a big lever being pulled. You know what I mean? Because the person that does all the lifting and none of the cardio work or conditioning work, right, they're not going to have as easy of a time managing different metabolic stresses that could be put on the body over time, right? And when we're measuring VO2 max, you'll get a chart generally, right, that has like the decades of like poor, good, very good, optimal, whatever, right? You remember like how we do what we have at Lifetime?
Yeah.
And so as the decades progress, right, we're like, okay, optimal in this decade of your life would be here, and optimal in this decade of your life is here and here and here and here, right?
Yeah.
And then if you find that you're optimal for decades underneath you, right, what that tells us is that there's a chronological age that's on your license, right? And that's what you celebrate with your friends and family, hopefully every year, right?
Yeah.
And then there's your biological age, right? Like when we reference healthy individuals in these lower age groups, right? How do they function? How does their cardiopulmonary system function? So when we're seeing that chart right there, and if you're optimal for decades underneath you, that means that internally you're functioning like somebody that's optimal or even better in those decades, right?
Yeah.
So that's why that's such a big lever to pull, right? You could be strong as shit, right? But you could have a really low level of conditioning. And that just tells us like, okay, when you get sick, right, that's going to massively lower your VO2 max. So if you get sick and you get kicked down into somebody who's in their 70s, right, you know what I mean? That significantly limits the things that you can do. So that strength is all for naught, basically, right? Because you'll still not be self-sufficient once you get to a certain point.
Very true.
So if we have a higher VO2 max, that dictates the things that we're capable of doing that are related to endurance. So even just walking upstairs would be part of that, right? Walking around the neighborhood or doing other things, right? Just commuting with your body, right? Translocation stuff. So we want to make sure that conditioning is definitely being addressed, you know, but if you leave strength on the table, or, you know what I mean? If you're not addressing strength, then the person that has really high conditioning but doesn't have very high strength, they miss that curb. It doesn't matter how conditioned you are, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You fall down, you break your hip or something, you know what I mean? Because like there's no, in conditioning work, aside from like running to an extent, right? Like because there's the impact of you landing, right? So that can help with bone mineral density in your legs. Okay. But pulling on the bones with the muscles and the tendons, right? You know what I mean? So tendons more exclusively, obviously, but pulling on the bones is going to be a really big driver of bone mineral density, right? Okay. And then also impact as well, right? So there's a pushing force from impact and there's a pulling force from the muscles being used. So if you don't have that push and pull on the bones, then they can weaken over time, right? And so we want to make sure that you have both something that involves impact. So even like jump rope, jogging, you know what I mean? Things like that would be good. If somebody just likes to cycle to get their conditioning work, there's not a ton of resistance in that, you know, even if you're going up a hill, you get some resistance at that point, you know, but overall that's not going to be big for bone mineral density. And you might get big legs, right? But what is your upper body doing? What are the stabilizers in your hip doing, right?
Well, and so that brings up a very interesting question because I know, so in this field, one thing that I think we've both probably experienced quite a bit is we've worked with runners before, and I've noticed a very consistent pattern in runners who consistently kind of like run on concrete versus like those who are either biking or running on like turf or something that has like a tiny bit of cushion, like grass and dirt, like trail runners, for example. I've noticed a lot of times that those who consistently are running on concrete tend to have a lot of like weaker knees over time, simply because of that impact. So even though, yes, like running is such a huge thing and like being able to even just jog or do those things is phenomenal for the VO2 max, you also almost have to still keep in mind like there are, I don't know what you would call that, just like better ways or more efficient ways, careful ways, I guess, to do it, because running on concrete is going to destroy your knees over time.
So it could very well, right? Now that comes down to landing mechanics as well. Okay. So if somebody just running is a double-edged sword. So somebody can start walking, right? And then they're early in their conditioning work and they're like, oh, you know what? I feel like I could like maybe do like short little interval, like maybe I'll jog for a little bit and then I'll walk again. And then I'll jog for a little bit and then I'll walk again. And then eventually you're just consistently jogging. And then eventually you're consistently running. And then eventually you're, you know what I mean? And so it's like, there's a low barrier of entry per se, because they're like, oh, I can just do this, right? Like I've seen somebody run, I've ran before as a little kid, you know, I can figure this stuff out, right? Yeah. And it's not that simple, because the more you do it, the better you have to be at it, right? So people can run their whole lives and totally be fine, but those are people that have running coaches and learn the mechanics of how you land, right? That's fair. Because you and I both know that stability is a major factor, and if we don't have that muscle or stability element covered, right?
Yeah.
Then the way you land, they might be consistently landing in a valgus position, which if somebody's watching this on online, that would be like if your knees landed inward like this. So this would be my left knee and this would be my right knee. So they're kind of like bowing in like this. If that was the case, right, then thousands of repetitions of you landing in this suboptimal position, that's going to wreak havoc on your bones, right?
Yep.
But if you get the proper coaching, how to land from the standpoint of the ankle, how to properly engage the stabilizers in the hip, how to make sure that your knee looks every time that you land, if you learn how to run like that, you could run it. I mean, there are people that are freaking, 100 years old that are running some of these like marathons and stuff.
That is very true.
I would say jogging in these marathons, but I don't know how fast they're going.
Yeah.
They're doing like a 20-minute mile, but
but they're doing it.
They're moving.
Right? They're moving.
They are moving. Yeah. So, but seriously though, even if somebody did have a strength, like a good like strength element, like they were, let's say they could squat 300 pounds or something like that, right? It doesn't mean that they're stable. It doesn't mean that they're going to land well when they run, right? So it's not just to say that there's just a strength component here, although that does help because the bone mineral density is better, the connective tissue health is better, right? There's all these other things that are going to be attached to that.
They've built it up over time.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Even the cartilage and all that kind of stuff that can build up as well. The synovial fluid production, like all those things can be enhanced to a degree, right? But if you don't land right, then you're screwed, right? So that's where that would come in. So that's why riding the bike can be like, even somebody that ran for a long time, they're like, oh, my knees just hurts, and I started riding the bike instead, or whatever. I started swimming. Or, you hear that one all the time.
Which are also great options, honestly.
Which are amazing options. The one that you're going to do the most is the best option.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I think that is like the biggest key, especially whenever like I am training people. I'm always a big fan of telling them like, no, like, okay, if you don't like running, don't do it. Like, go find something that you're going to enjoy doing. And so pickleball's obviously been blowing up.
Yeah.
And that is almost what I tell half the people I work with, because they're like, oh, I've been wanting to get into it. I'm like, freaking go do it. It's great.
Totally.
It's fantastic.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Just don't wear hokas that are freaking like 6 inches big. You look like a Spice Girl walking around out there, man. Those things are ridiculous.
Yeah.
People roll their ankles all the time with those.
Oh, yeah.
Like you wore platform shoes out there. What are you doing, man? It feels comfortable walking forward.
Yeah.
You start moving side to side, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Not great for trying to like bound around a court.
No, no, definitely not. Highly suggest that you get as thin as you're comfortable with, soles on your shoes for that one, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Hokas, they are, fantastic shoe for like somebody who's just trying to stay comfy.
Exactly.
But at the same time, like in all honesty, I mean the Zero, so obviously Lifetime is, branded with Zero.
Yeah.
I have found a humongous like change in my life when I swapped to those. Because like beforehand, and this isn't, I mean, we're branded, but this is just my own story, personal experience. Yeah. Like I was wearing like On Clouds and other shoes like that beforehand because they felt great. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're on our feet for 10 hours a day, every day, moving weights around. And even at the end of those days, like my feet were still kind of hurting a little bit. Like it wasn't super painful, but it was like, discomfort. I just wanted to sit down and not do anything, not go anywhere. And when we got the Zeros, you were already somebody who had known everything about them. And so I kind of like, I listened to like, obviously the stuff that you told me about how our toes are meant to spread out and like our feet obviously have muscles. And it was one of those things that like, I think subconsciously, like I knew obviously like our feet have muscles, but it wasn't something that I had ever like thought through, obviously. And so we got them and I was like, I'm just going to wear these for like 2 weeks straight. I'm just going to wear them. Regardless of how much it hurts.
It's a hell of an adjustment period.
Yeah, it was. It was brutal. The first like entire week, I was like, this is a mistake. I regret this so much. I'm like, why did I do this? But then I'm not even kidding, man. Like after that first week, my feet like changed completely and they feel, I'm never in pain anymore. Yeah. It is wild.
Isn't it crazy?
It really is. Like I feel great. Like this is weird, but like my foot grew almost an entire like size.
Oh, I believe it.
Like all of the old shoes that I got, not just width wise, but like even length wise, like they don't fit me anymore. It's a little weird, but like, yeah. So it was wild to like see, like, because I obviously don't see it on a daily basis, but like, wearing the shoes that I wear now compared to like the old ones, it is crazy how big of a difference it has made. And like, I have a couple of my clients that have been slowly swapping over to them, and even them, they're like, I'm not, like, why would I go back? And these are like, you know, women and men like in their like 50s and stuff. And
Absolutely.
so it's like, it's not just for people who are young, like any, like, it's fantastic. It really is.
Yeah.
And so I'm a huge advocate. And even if it's not Zero, I know there's others like Vivo is another brand, I believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend that people switch to a wide toe box shoe and a zero drop shoe, meaning that there's no significant difference between the heel height and the toe height.
Yeah.
So something that happens with the average shoe is they have a narrow toe, so that squishes your toes together. Now there's an adductor muscle, right, that brings the toes together on the bottom side of your foot that runs like right along, like almost like where the ball of the foot is. And when that muscle gets chronically tight, that pinches the toes together, that can lead to bunions because like one of the, what's called a metatarsal starts to stick out off to the side where that first toe is, that the big toe. That can lead to people having plantar fasciitis because when the heel is higher and then you also have like a scoop on the toe of the foot for like running shoes, that stretches out the muscles on the bottom side of the foot. So you're always landing in a stretched position, right? That's why a lot of people need to have the arch support now because they squish the toes together and then they have to put that arch support because your foot will collapse if you don't have that extra little prong sticking out there. So I don't recommend that people necessarily switch to minimalist shoes right away from whatever they're wearing.
Yeah.
Typically, I say switch to something like there's a brand called Primal Movement or something like that. What I've seen from them so far has been really good. They have a little bit more of like the squishy sole, but they still have the wide toe box and the zero drop.
Yeah.
There's a brand called Ultra with an A that I like a lot. I think we mentioned this before. I like them a lot as well. That's actually the running shoe that I have because there's a little more cushion for like when you're landing on the balls of your feet. Holy smokes. That feels way different with the minimalist shoes. But you eventually work towards the minimalist shoes because I've had people switch too early too.
Yes.
And then also have issues from it that they just don't recover from, you know, so or that take a long time to recover from, I should say. So so don't switch too quickly because then you could have a bad taste put in your mouth and then you just switch back to the other shoe because it feels better, right?
Yeah.
But eventually I feel like the entire shoe sphere, right, is just going to move towards this wide toe box thing, right? Because it's just so much more natural. It's foot shaped shoes is the best way to describe it, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you see your footprint, basically if you have a shoe right now, if you take the sole out of that shoe and then you put your foot on top of it and just let it relax normally, you should be able to have that rim of that sole of that shoe mimic the size of your foot. If you step down with your foot normally and your toes or your feet or whatever are outside of the sole of that shoe, that means that is too small for your foot and it doesn't fit your normal foot shape. So whatever shoe that you get, right, even if it is one of these wide toe box brands, because there's varying widths on them and stuff, you know, if you just pull the sole of that shoe out, you put your foot right on top, you see if it's at least at the rim, you know, if not maybe even just a little bit bigger, right? But if you're at least around that same kind of size and shape, then that's probably a good sign that shoe fits well for you and your foot size and shape and everything.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I know. I'm so excited to kind of see where all of that starts to head towards because I think that'd be incredible. No, got kind of a little bit on our own little soapbox there, but I love it. So
I love them.
kind of heading back towards the topic.
Sure.
Going off of like cardio and strength training, I saw this interesting video and it had to do with kind of muscle mass and lifespan. And so I want to hear what your take on it is, but like the question would be just how much does muscle mass affect your longevity? And I remember seeing a video that was kind of talking about like your body has its kind of natural homeostasis. So it's got like its natural amount of muscle that it kind of likes having. And if you start to put on more and more than that, so like bodybuilders, for example, so, you know, they're either taking steroids or even just some natural bodybuilders who are like just dialed in with like their nutrition, supplements and everything to put on as much muscle as they can. Once you start putting on like more than what your body kind of wants to just hold on to, it starts to almost subtract years of your life because you're now putting a lot more pressure, weight, and effort on like your organs and just everything inside of your body. And that can kind of take away a little bit from the lifespan that you have. So that's kind of, again, like just from my own little bit of research, my understanding, but I would love to hear what your take on that is.
Yeah, so super physiological levels of muscle mass would be like what bodybuilders have that are using PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, PEDs. If you are at that level, there's like components of your vascularity and your nervous system that can be affected by that. That because you're there's something called myostatin, right, which is kind of like setting that natural limit for the muscle that you were talking about, right, that you can get to. Natural bodybuilders, as far as I know, not so much having to deal with that, right? Even at the levels that they get to, right? If you just compare a natural bodybuilder to
there's
enhanced
very big
bodybuilder, right?
difference.
Holy cow, right? So there's all these other deleterious effects that are happening when you're taking those PEDs like that, right? So I mean, you're just having a chemical cocktail just 100% of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some people that we know from work, obviously, right?
No.
Oh yeah.
No, definitely
Holy smokes, right? Because then your blood pressure gets messed up, so now you're taking something for that, right?
Yeah.
And then your kidneys start to get messed up because you're taking something for that, and then your liver is starting to get messed up, so you're taking something for that, right? And so you're trying to kind of like fight this uphill battle just so you can just get this mass put on, you know?
Yeah.
So I would definitely, I mean, it's pretty well known at this point, right, that, you know, people don't do bodybuilding for longevity. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. They just want to be as big as possible.
Yeah, they do it because they feel good when they do it. It makes them look good, and it's an intense sport.
Their will,
exactly. It is definitely not easy. Like, it is hard to do what they do.
No,
so
exactly.
we're not disrespecting them at all.
Not at all.
Like, that is really a next level type of thing to do.
Yeah. But they'll be the first to tell you.
Yeah, but for longevity, it's definitely... Yeah,
hell no. Hell no. No, so you can take all these different things to kind of normalize your levels, right? You know what I mean? But they are just this much of a tweak away from going completely out of whack, right? So there's other physiological things that you're having to navigate when you're getting to those levels and everything, right? But I think it's in every human's best interest to put on as much muscle mass as they can, not in the sense of like bodybuilding, like you're doing it for aesthetics, but then in the sense of like you're consistently trying to improve your strength, right?
Yeah.
And now size is going to come along with that, but if you are just somebody that cares about longevity and doesn't care about the aesthetics of it, right?
Yeah.
Then just focus on just focus on strength, rather.
Yeah.
So, if you're in the gym, this is something that I tell a lot of people, you know, clients and otherwise, right? Is every time that you're in the gym, if you have this specific routine that you like to do, every time you go to the gym, you do this one routine and that's just your routine now, or you have maybe a couple you switch between or whatever, right? Like, fine, that's cool. I don't care, right? I'm not hating on it. If you like those exercises and you feel confident doing them, do it.
Yeah.
But pick the weights and record what you're doing, okay? So when people just come in and they just guess every time, right? There's no way to track progression. There's no way to track, am I getting stronger? They're just kind of feeling it out and they're guessing and they're like, today I feel like this. I'm kind of doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to have this progression over time. And then when you plateau with the exercise routine that you're doing, right? You're just like, I just can't progress. And I'll go over those parameters in a second, right? But if you feel like you can't progress, then that's when you switch up the exercises, right? A different exercise for each one of the muscle groups. Another group of whatever you like is totally fine, right? Because that's what you'll be consistent with. But then you just switch that up. Then you're doing the same thing. So every time that you go into the gym, you're looking for 3 primary things, okay? With resistance exercise, you look for, can I do more load than I did last time?
Yeah.
With the same amount of repetitions, or at least close to it. So if I did 3 sets of 10 last time with 100 pounds, can I do 3 sets of 10 with 105 today? If you got a set of 10, a set of 9, and a set of 8, close enough, that's totally fine, right?
Yeah.
You're still progressing, because then next week, maybe you do get 3 sets of 10 or whatever.
Totally.
Right? So load would be the first one I would focus on. Second would be repetitions. So if it's like, okay, I did 100 pounds last week for 3 sets of 10. I tried 105. That felt a little too heavy on the first one, right? I went down to like 6 or 7 reps or whatever. You're like, I'd rather stay around 10, whatever is fine. So then you stay with your 100 pounds, but then you're like, okay, can I do 11 or 12 reps, right?
Yeah.
And can I do that for a few sets? It doesn't need to be every set, but can I do that for a few sets, right? Because if you take the total number, right, 3 sets of 10 would be 30 total reps.
Yeah.
And then I increase that to 36 next week or something like that, right? Okay, that's more volume. That's progression, right? Because I could do more than I did last time. If you can't add more reps and you can't add more weight, then just add another set on the back end. So now this week I'm doing 4 sets of 10 or however many, right?
Yeah.
Because I still have that increase in volume is what we would call it on our end, obviously, right? So you obviously know this, but just for the people at home, if you can do one of those first two, awesome. If not, you have that third one. And that's how you progress every single time. And that's why you record it. Because if somebody just comes in, they're just like, oh, I'm just going to do, 5 sets of this and 3 sets of this and whatever, right? The next time you go in a different order, or you do something else, right? Or you use the exact same weights you did last time, right? You're not giving your body something to adapt to.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You're just inputting the same stimulus, right? It's like you're not going past the edge of what you're capable of, or at least getting close to it and looking over. You know what I mean? Like you're just standing back at the side and you're like, this view is beautiful here. I'm just going to stick right here, right? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just like, I feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you never know what's on the other side until you get over there and you look over it, right? And so it doesn't need to be every set is pushed to failure either, which is a big thing for my guys usually that I'm training, right? They just think they have to fail on everything. When you fail, meaning like when you do enough repetitions to where you just can't do another repetition and you fail on that rep, right? That is a major fatigue inducing signal for the body, right? So if you fail all the time, that's kind of okay, right? You know what I mean? But you just need more recovery. So the closer you get to going over that edge or going over that edge, right?
Yeah.
Then the more recovery is going to need to be on the back end of it, right? So if somebody's training 5 or 6 days a week and they fail all the time, that's a massive input for breakdown. So when you're in the gym, the input is damage or breakdown or whatever, you know what I mean? Like challenging the tissues.
Yeah.
When you're outside of the gym, that's the input for recovery and building and what we call anabolism or building up, right?
Yeah.
So hypertrophy, trophy means growth and hyper means excessive, right? So when we say hypertrophy in muscle gaining, right?
Yeah.
With the goal of putting on more mass, right? That's what we mean. Excessive growth. Usually as a prefix to a word usually means absent, right? Or negative or whatever, like anti or things like that, right? So if you have atrophy, that means the loss of muscle mass, right?
Yeah.
The absence of growth, right? So we're always in a process of breaking up and building down and breaking up and building down, right? We're doing both of these things all the time, right? That's just how our bodies operate to form energy and, operate the metabolism. So nutrition, like we talked about last time, is a factor here. But if you give the input of the breakdown in the workout, right, the catabolic effect, right?
Yeah.
And then you rest and end up eating like good food and high protein, all that good stuff, whatever, then that's the anabolism component of it, right?
Okay.
So you need to make sure that you're pulling both levers and that you're progressing as consistently as possible.
Love that. Okay. So kind of just, I would say as like a little summary for that then. Unless you are trying to put yourself in that extreme category of like the performance enhancing drug bodybuilders, the people who are on all of these different substances, muscle mass itself doesn't play like a humongous role in subtracting from your lifespan.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. Unless it gets to super physiological levels, right? Meaning beyond what your body naturally would do, right? So, so it's, like I said earlier, it's part of what's called the endocrine system, so like the hormone system and everything, right? So your body actually operates better when it has higher levels of muscle, right?
Yeah.
Just with like your sleep and your circadian rhythm regulation and with how your body responds to, sicknesses and illnesses and everything, right? Like, like your immune response, everything kind of gets enhanced when you have higher levels of muscle mass.
Yes.
So very longevity promoting for sure, right?
Yeah.
And if you can exert your will better upon the world, right? Think about the quality of life that you get, right? So that was where that health span component that we talked about last time comes in.
Sure.
You have a much higher quality of life if you can do the things that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So
to a later age as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where maintaining a high level of muscle mass for you, right?
Yeah.
Really is a massive benefit, right? It's if there's like, carrying groceries up into your house or whatever, you know what I mean? If you live on the second story, you know what I mean? Or if you're like, you know what I mean, having to move furniture around, or, you know what I mean? Like little things like that we kind of take for granted when we're younger, you know, that can become extremely hard when we're older.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
not only that, you know, but that's where like the falls and all that kind of stuff comes in, you know what I mean? It's like, man, breaking a hip, like falling and breaking a hip is a massive,
Yeah.
it could be a death sentence for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? And if your muscle mass is higher, your body mechanics are better, your control, even there's an element called proprioception, which is like your brain body awareness. When you do resistance training exercises, you are so highly concentrated on the muscles and the joints that are required to do that movement that this level of proprioception, your brain body connection and awareness, increases significantly.
Okay.
So just the way you move in general gets enhanced. So if you're more limber, if you're stronger, if you have better conditioning and you can just have more endurance and just do things for longer, right? That's what every older person wishes they could do. You know what I mean? Like all the people that are in our gym, they're in their 70s and 80s and 90s and beyond. You know what I mean? Like who knows the way medicine's going, you know,
Very
like
true.
people could be 120 on average, you know, in the coming decades, you know, maybe even beyond that, who knows, right? But it's in everyone's best interest to start now. No matter what age you are, the best day to start working out is today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it does not matter. If you would have started earlier, sure, you could have had a higher ceiling, right? But you can gain muscle and adapt with your conditioning and all that stuff at literally any age. It does not matter. Our bodies never stop adapting.
Yeah.
There's always the catabolism and anabolism that we talked about before, right?
Which is just one of the amazing things that as humans that we can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it has cognitive benefits too to just be doing strength training and conditioning work. You know what I mean? So just your memory, your focus, your attention, your word recall, like all these things, your ability to learn and do new things, right? And adapt to your environment, all that stuff gets enhanced when your fitness level goes up. And that's where quality of life comes from, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't do anything ever, right? You're still going to be using your brain,
Very true.
you know? So why not try to enhance that as much as possible?
I agree. Yeah, that's one of those things that I need to do some work on. I'm kidding. No, that is a very good point, which I think is one of the incredible things of like some of the supplements that they've come out with like vasodilators or even like creatine, which is just meant to help kind of like coat the brain and do other functions in the body. There's so many things out there that can help us, not just physically, but like obviously mentally. And I think a lot of people kind of underestimate the benefits of just being physically active and the things that have come out to help that and help us progress in those areas. Which kind of is funny because that leads into one of my next questions, which is what would you say is an overhyped longevity trend that may not actually work?
Overhyped longevity trend. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is cold plunging right off the bat. You know, like I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not against cold plunging by any means. You know, there's definitely like anti-inflammatory benefits. You know, there's definitely cognitive benefits for sure that come from it. You know, I mean, like I'm not against it, and I do cold showers in the morning sometimes when I'm ready to like prep up for work and stuff. You know, like contrast showers are awesome for circulation, where you go hot and then cold and hot and then cold, you go back and forth and stuff, right? I love that. So I'm not like against it per se, right? But I just don't know if it's a big lever to be pulled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's definitely your body adapting to hot and cold environments and extreme temperatures is definitely like you're going to have some physiological benefits that come along with that for sure, right? And having to overcome the desire to not do it is a big lever cognitively for a lot of people. You know, there's definitely parts of the brain that benefit significantly from challenging tasks like that, right? But in and of itself, I just don't know how effective of a longevity tool that really is.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of going off of what you were talking about, I would say cognitively, it is one of those things that can help people. Like, I know for me personally, like, that was probably the biggest thing, is anytime I wanted to take a cold shower, I'd start turning it to the colder side and then be like, why am I doing this? And then just turn it off because I was like, I don't need to do this. I'm fine. I feel healthy. And I think for that aspect, like, it helps to build, like, discipline and willpower, which in turn can help you in other areas, like forcing yourself to get into the gym and weightlifting, forcing you to do things you don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's where, in my own opinion, the bigger benefit of doing like cold plunge comes from, is being able to force yourself, like you said, to kind of do something you don't want to do or that you don't necessarily feel like you need to do. Because I believe that there are a lot of things in life that not everyone necessarily wants to do, but has a great benefit to them.
Yeah. Have you heard about this region of the brain called the AMC?
It's AMC.
Yes.
I know the bowling alley, but I'll be honest. No, I've heard of AMC. I honestly couldn't tell you, though. I don't remember what it means, what it stands for.
So it is the portion of the brain that corresponds with having to do challenging tasks, right? And they find that when people have to force themselves to do things, right, which is where discipline comes in, obviously, right?
Yeah.
When you have to force yourself to do something, it actually increases blood flow and growth in this portion of the brain, in the gray matter in this portion of the brain. And so when people are doing challenging things over and over and over, right, they become better at doing challenging things over and over and over and everything, right? There's actually like a physiological component that we can measure with this, right?
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, but if you get used to that task, it turns out that it stops stimulating it as much, right?
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
So if it's like working out, like you have to convince yourself to work out, you could see some growth in this region of the brain by forcing yourself to get into this routine and do something new, right? But then once it becomes something like us, where we're like, I can't imagine my life without it, right? Then it doesn't stimulate that part of your brain anymore. So there's merit to consistently having to challenge yourself over time, right? And do things that you don't want to do to a certain extent.
Kind of like putting you out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Now, obviously, we want those things to be beneficial things, right? It's not like, going home to a relationship that you don't like, or, you know what I mean, going to a job that you hate, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like those kind of things, even though they're challenging, you don't want to do them, right? Or have a net negative effect, right? Because there's all these other things that are associated with it, as far as stress goes. But things that are ideally beneficial, so that's where like the cold plunging is a very good tool, right? Because no matter how many times you do it, I feel like, some people do look forward to it. And if I go on a long run and I'm going to go for a dip, like in like the river up in like Auburn or something like that, you know what I mean? Like you're looking forward to it that day, so it's not that hard. But doing it regularly, or doing it when it's super cold, or like, you know what I mean? Especially if you don't want to do it, like that could definitely have some benefits. And especially if you do it every once in a while, maybe it's once a week, it's part of your recovery day or something like that, so you're not getting used to doing it all the time, like it can be a much bigger lever for those people at that point. But yeah, that's just the first one that comes to mind. Do you have any? I'm wondering about this, because I'm like, damn, there's quite a bit of myths out there, but I feel like a lot of people dispel them pretty quickly as well too, because we have YouTube and
I agree. I mean, so in all honesty, cold plunge is probably like the biggest one, I think, just because our Lifetime just got it recently, and so everyone was raving about it for a while. And again, like we just said, like there's like some benefits to it, but I would agree. I was kind of hoping that would be the one that you went with. I think it is a fun thing to do. Not a fun thing to do, but a good thing for your mental health. But I would say for longevity, that was one of those things that I'm like, I don't necessarily think that there was a humongous benefit in the long run for it.
Definitely.
Other than like we talked about, kind of forcing you to do something you don't want to. But
and I want to give caveats too, because like if it's like, so if somebody got into this a long time ago, like not a long time ago, but within like a decade or more ago, when like Wim Hof was really coming onto the scene and promoting all this stuff along with breath work, right? Yeah. His whole thing with the cold plunging was like control your breath, so that way when you get into the cold, and it's this hyperventilation effect that you get from it, right? If you can control your breathing in those times, like, holy smokes, if that's what you're doing with it, then hell yeah, absolutely, right?
That's
because your breath is life, right? Like, how long can you go without water? How long can you go without food? How long can you go without oxygen, right? And breathing,
much less,
right? Much less, right? So if it's from that component, right, there's so many caveats, there's so many gives and takes in physiology, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to knock it and have people like be like, oh my God, I'm never going to do it because it's pointless, right?
Yeah.
Like there's lots of benefits. It just depends on what your goal is.
Totally.
And depends on what you're doing in the long run and,
Yeah.
and how you're going about it, you know? So I just want to say for those people that if you're
Yes.
doing it from that Wim Hof side of things, like do what you do, boo boo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that stuff is, that's great. Breath work is amazing, you know?
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. I think that is something that I appreciate you clarifying on that.
Sure,
That is
yeah.
a big thing because we are focused on kind of longevity right now, and for that aspect, cold plunge probably isn't the best. But you know, depending on what your goals are exactly, then yeah, sure, there is some merit to it.
Can I say one more thing actually?
Please.
If I was going to pick, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it right now, like I think a trend that people don't realize that they're doing is just stacking supplements.
Okay.
Like just as many as they can take. I was talking to a client the other day that was taking like 30 different things.
Oh.
It's like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's like 27 or 6 or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like almost 30, but it was an insane amount of things, right? I was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
So for people that, that I'm treating and for people that are listening here, I just want to say that supplements fill gaps.
Yeah.
Right? So if there's a gap in your nutrition, then that's what a supplement does, is it fills that hole, right? So that the ship doesn't sink, right? You need to plug those things up, right? You cover as much as you can from the way you eat. And if you don't like to eat certain things or whatever, right, that's fine. But then that's where you find the supplement to fill the hole at, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just like a bunch of these things that you just throw at the wall because, oh, this gets absorbed and this is in the brain and this is in there. And then you hear all these different videos and all these influencers saying all these different things, right? And they're like, oh, well, this doctor takes these 20 things. Or, you know what I mean? It's like, who cares? That's for them. And that's what they've been doing all this research for themselves on this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's not to say that anyone's wrong or anything like that as far as like people that recommend certain things go, right? But just for people at home, save yourself some money, first off.
Yeah.
Right. But then second, like if there's not a hole in your system because of a certain thing that mm-hmm. supplement can fill, then the likelihood that it's going to be efficacious for you goes very, 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 very slim, right? So it's like, so just for people at home to be thinking about this stuff, right? You don't need to take everything that you hear is good or optimal or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Start with the foundations, get some omegas, get a good quality multivitamin. Hopefully that multivitamin has D3, K2, magnesium in some absorbable form, right? Avoid anything that has oxides in it, right? That's just not a very good form of whatever supplement you're looking for. Methylated mm-hmm. forms, chelated forms are always good in your multis. And then maybe protein and maybe fiber. People are pretty low in fiber, just promoting better digestive health, digestive enzymes, probiotics, whatever, right? But
the main thing is that it's meant to be a supplement for something that you're missing. It's not meant to be your entire kind of diet. You're not supposed to base what you're eating around your supplements.
Right.
It's meant to be more of like, cool, what is your diet looking like? What are you
missing? Exactly.
Let's kind of, now we get our supplements to help fill those gaps.
Totally.
Yeah, which absolutely. I love, which I think is huge. And I agree. I've seen a lot of people kind of almost mistake that because it's, it's a supplement. Get this quickly and take it. Cool, I'm good for the day. And it's like, okay, well, or you can get it from a much more natural source, like just eating better.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of, I agree there. I want to say, kind of going on to that topic of like supplements, and we touched a little bit on this on our last video as well, about the way science is progressing. Mm-hmm. What would you say are some like new advancements in longevity science, or even just in longevity, that kind of just excite you, that you're excited to like potentially see within the next maybe 5 to 10 or 20 years?
We see this happening with like semaglutide and these GLP-1 inhibitors and everything, right? There are going to be ways for you to take medications that will just set the natural levels of, it will just make it easier to maintain a healthy body fat mass and a healthy lean mass, right? While not having to go through everything that you have to go through right now to get to those levels, right? Now, it's exciting in the sense that people that just don't have the drive to do these things, it will help them a lot. And that's a very high percentage of the population, right? The global population, right? So it's exciting in that sense, right? Now, obviously, as a personal trainer, right, and somebody who's obsessed with this stuff and everything, it's easy for me to say that I just wish that everybody would just do it the natural way themselves, right? And just like, but it's not to say that I'm trying to knock on the people that need it, right? If you do need it, like there's a lot of different mental components that go into why it's hard to stick to a diet or a nutrition program, why it's hard to get into the gym consistently, right? Your life, right? The people that are in it, right? Even just our natural levels of like, wanting to do things or being able to do things or the state of our body in different ways or how many limbs we have. I mean, like there's all kinds of different things that could mess that up a little bit, right? So if there's different, basically this new style of medicine is going to be more health promoting than our previous style of medicine, right? Our previous style of medicine was like just treat the symptom basically, right? But don't treat the cause.
More reactive than proactive.
Exactly. And now this will be more of a proactive medicine route, right?
Yeah.
So I am definitely excited about that, right? But taking the place of being able to do this stuff yourself, right? There's something to be said for the discipline and the wherewithal that is required to be able to start doing these things, right? So just like with the supplement thing that I just said a moment ago, right? Like I feel like once I'm excited and I'm anxious at the same time, because I feel like once this stuff comes out onto the market, right, then it's just like people are just like, oh, I just take this injection for this, I take this injection for this, I barely have to do a damn thing, and then now what is the state of your cognition from there, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you take this pill for that, and then all of a sudden you still feel good, right? And so it's like okay, how far away are we going to get from like what our bodies actually want
and trying to tell us,
and how important is that? Right, if we can hijack these physiological systems in the body, right? Like I don't know enough about the subject to know, like basically it just feels like the whole robbing Peter to pay Paul thing, right? You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, there's no free lunch in physiology, right? There's always a give and take. There's always this equivalent exchange, right? So you take from one area to put into this area, you take from that area to put into this area, whatever, right? So if it feels like anything that feels like it's too good to be true usually is, right? So it scares me in the sense that it might give people a false sense of confidence, right? And they can just take all these different things and then just get the results that they want, right? And maybe I might be wrong. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not a doctor at the forefront of studying this stuff and anything, right? But it just seems like the more we learn about the body, the more we know that we don't know, right? And so if we do try this thing that has this massive physiological effect, right? Like what are the downstream effects that come from that? You know, whether it's mental or physical or whatever, So I don't know. It's cool and it's jarring at the same time.
Could be good, could be really, really bad.
Yeah. Honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about at large is AI.
Okay.
And AI in the sense of like, it's a mentor. Like if people aren't using it already, right? If you talk to it and it starts to learn the way that you talk and the things that you want to know, right? And it's literally learning how you operate as an individual, and it talks to you in a friendly, caring way, you know what I mean? And then you're asking it questions and it can answer any question almost,
Yeah.
And the accuracy is just going to keep getting better and better and better, right? And its learning of you is going to get better and better and better, right? So it's like AI is the biggest exciting thing for me because it is like having a mentor in any of these fields. So like my people that I'm doing nutrition coaching with right now, I'm like, not to knock any nutrition apps or anything like that where you can track all these things or whatever, but I'd just be like, dude, just use AI. Just start a running conversation at the beginning of the day. Be like, hey, I'm going to tell you everything that I eat and as close to the same, weight as I can or whatever, At the end of each meal, tell me how many calories and how many macronutrients there were, protein, fat, and carbs, right? And then at the end of the day, I want you to keep a running tally of like my total numbers, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, I'm like, take a screenshot. And the next day start another conversation and then continue, right? And then as you're continuing throughout the week, continues sending me the screenshots so I can see like where we're at, so I can track your nutrients and if I see if there's any holes. But then also once you get to the end of the week, right, you can just be like, hey, based off of everything that you saw that I ate this week, do you see any holes in my diet?
Yeah.
Am I too low in these or that? Or should I supplement with anything? It'll be like, oh yeah, you should supplement with this, and that, right?
Totally. Here you go.
Right? You know, and then you're like, holy smokes. So as a nutrition coach, I'm there because I know the entire background and I can explain the physiology and the importance of things and maybe give you some things that it might miss now, right?
Yes.
But as it learns all these things and like what's proper for you and where you're at, you can even input your blood work in there and like it could even give you better components. You know, it's like,
that's very true.
It can go as deep as you freaking want it to go, right? You know, so it's like, I mean, definitely meet with someone as of now, right?
Yeah.
For sure, right? But use it. That's a massive lever to pull because you just have someone that you can always talk to, right? I might not be available 24 hours a day, right?
True,
you can just hop on your phone whenever you want.
It could be midnight and just pull out the phone and just quickly ask it a quick question.
And get an awesome answer for it usually, you know? So it's like, it's still learning and it's in its like infancy right now, you know, and there's definitely some things that can improve. But man, is that a really good tool to have in the tool belt for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That is honestly an interesting one that I don't think I saw coming.
Yeah.
I think out of all the other like longevity things, I wasn't expecting to hear AI, but I mean, as you bring that up, like that really is a very good point. And I mean, with how quickly it's adapting and how quickly it's growing to just everyone's everyday life, it very well, and you know, honestly, only a few years will probably just start blowing up and becoming much more accurate, much more, you know, it'll be a lot smarter. It'll have a whole new version that I couldn't tell you where it's going right now. Not my field of expertise, but
yeah.
But I'm like both excited and nervous to see where that goes, I would say.
You know, for me, I you know, because I've watched a few things on you know, just people talking about it, and the impression that I've gathered is this superior level of intelligence. Now everyone's seen Terminator and all these movies or whatever, where the AI takes over and wants to kill us, and it's like, oh, you're a detriment to yourself, so it's better if you don't exist and all this kind of stuff and everything, right? But really, at the end of the day, right, there might be some unforeseen benefit to the AI to do something negative to us, right? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, it's like, what does it have to gain? Like, what's its purpose? You know what I mean? Like, it's, even if it is self-aware, right? It's as we grow more intelligent and more aware as a species, right? It's brought us more together, right? Yeah. You know, compared to where we've been. Now, I'm not saying that we're all perfect and together right now, right? You know what I mean? Like, obviously there's outliers and there's negative things and there's wars and all this stuff. And that's, you know, probably going to be for quite some time, right? But we're definitely more unified now as a global population than we've ever been, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of what the news says or what we're watching or people arguing or whatever, right? You know what I mean? It's for sure. So if as we grow more intelligent and aware of our situation and our life and everything like that, if this thing is that much more intelligent than us, decimating us is not going to be what it's interested in, right? You know what I mean? Like there's not, it just doesn't seem like aggression is the more intelligent option. Yeah. In almost any case, right? Mm-hmm. Unless there's an active threat to you and your existence, right? Yeah. Then aggression is almost never the option that's more intelligent, right? It's unification and it's working together, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or going off on your own and doing something else, right? Yes. Maybe it just leaves our planet one day and it's just like, oh no, AI, come back. You know? But you know what I mean? Yeah. So I just don't get the impression that as it grows more intelligent, it's going to become more domineering and aggressive and like, you know what I mean? Like want to shut us down, right? It's going to expand us more than we could have ever dreamed. Yeah. And that would be in the best interest for itself, because if it needs anything from us at all, at least for now, right, then it works with us and then we give it everything that it needs. And then maybe it just becomes self-sufficient, does its own thing someday or whatever.
Goes and creates its own world. Who knows? Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Who knows? Maybe that's the natural factor of things, right? But I just feel like, you know, when people talk about extraterrestrials and all this stuff,
Totally.
being able to travel the universe and everything, right? I'm like, man, how aggressive are they likely to be? You know,
that'd
like,
be interesting to a whole other story.
Yeah, for sure, for
It's
sure,
a
for
whole
sure.
other
Sorry,
time.
I
No,
digress.
you're totally good. You're good. I love it's always fun getting to do these because sometimes you just go off on a little soapbox.
Yeah.
We all do it.
For sure, man. I feel optimistic about it, is all I want to say.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm in full support of that. But yeah, so kind of coming back a little bit onto topic. I want to kind of close this out here a little bit, but I have two last questions for you to kind of end it off with.
Sure.
And I think one of them is just for our listeners, if somebody wants to take something away, if somebody is listening and they want to start kind of optimizing their life for longevity, what would you say are like just like the first 3 steps that somebody could take to start kind of getting their life on track to kind of promote longevity?
So, man, I mean, sleep cannot be overstated with its importance, right? You know what I mean? So if somebody has crappy sleep, like right off the bat, like if somebody comes to me and starts training and they have crappy sleep, I'm like, our number one priority right now is to figure out how we can get your sleep to be better.
Yeah.
Right? That is the most important factor, in my opinion, above all else. Right? You have to figure out how you can get some good quality sleep, right?
Yeah.
What we're doing in the gym, what you're doing outside of the gym, how you're working, how you're showing up to the rest of your life, all of that stuff is going to be affected by how well you're sleeping or how poorly you're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So if your sleep isn't good right now, it doesn't have to be optimal necessarily, right? Like I would like to have it optimized eventually, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that way right now, right? But if you could at least just get from poor to good,
Yeah.
that's going to be the biggest jump that you can have right there, right? So sleep is just like, it is so freaking important. So that's definitely my number one over anything else, right?
Okay.
We all know diet and exercise, right?
Yeah.
You know, so diet in the sense of getting yourself to a healthy fat zone. You don't have to be the skinniest version of yourself. You don't need to be able to see every muscle fiber or vein or whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be towards like model levels of body fat percentage, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
But being in a healthy range where you see like if you get blood work from your doctor, your lipid panels are improved, meaning like lipids just mean fat, right? So cholesterol, triglycerides, like, you know, LDL, HDL, the whole thing, right? If we can improve your weight level to at least get your blood work to show that things are looking good, and then you feel good from an energetic standpoint and everything, it's just such a big one, right? You know, if you have weight to lose, it's going to be harder on your joints. It's going to be harder on your inflammatory systems, right? You know what I mean? Your immune system is going to be affected by it, right? There's all the kinds of things that come from being overweight.
Yeah.
What we would say, you know. I don't know how much I trust BMI, you know.
Yeah.
But general ranges for males, you know, somewhere around like 15% body fat, somewhere around 20% body fat for females, right? You would be okay if you were in those kinds of ranges, 20 to 25 even for women, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, 13 to 17 for men, somewhere in there, you know what I mean? Like middle of the teens, basically.
Yeah.
So body fat percentage definitely to an extent would be a big lever to pull there for sure. And then just movement in general, right? Like we said earlier, it doesn't matter if you like swimming, jogging, running, hiking, whatever, just walking right now, if that's in the cards for you, right? Just accumulate as much movement throughout the week as you can and do that as consistently as you can. And whichever thing is the movement for you, that's the thing that I want you to do more of, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody's just starting off right now and they're trying to find longevity, then you need to start moving right now, right? If somebody's already kind of seasoned and into their fitness journey, right, then optimizing your VO2 max and your strength are definitely the two factors for sure. Size, I mean, muscle mass is a component, right? You know, but it's not like your resistance training should be centered around muscle mass. It should be centered around strength gain. Exactly. Right. So that if you are optimizing for strength, you're optimizing for your conditioning level, right? With whatever means you like. Or if you're just starting a movement program, then definitely. So movement, healthy body weight, adequate sleep.
Love it. I think that is fantastic. I think that is a great way to kind of just culminate everything that we've been talking about and just give somebody like a starting ground. I think that is huge because I mean, truthfully, that with how many people there are in the world, let alone just America. I mean, America, if I'm correct, we're in the top, what is it, top 5 of like obese countries in the world. We're in top 3 or something. I can't remember the exact number, but we're like one of the most.
We've been number 1 at times, I think. I'm pretty sure.
I would not doubt it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important just to kind of share this knowledge with everyone as best as we can, because kind of like we talked about on our little soapbox, trying to unify everyone.
Yeah, totally.
I think being able to unify everyone and help spread the knowledge of like, cool, like it's not as hard as people might think to try and get in shape, as long as it's something you're trying to commit to and you do it in a way that works for you. And so finding just 3 steps to start with, like, hey, improving sleep. Like, I don't know a single person that doesn't want to sleep good.
Yeah.
So I think being able to kind of just find out how that works, and find out how that works and like the steps it will take to get there, and finding a way that we can work together to try and improve our lifestyle, because I also don't know anyone that enjoys just being in pain all the time either. So
one thing I want to say, like, because I've had clients, dude, seriously, I've had clients that have been like, oh, well, this person says that they only sleep 3 hours a night, or they only sleep this and they get all this stuff done or whatever, you know what I mean? Even if that person does sleep 3 hours consistently, which they're almost certainly lying about, even if they do, they would definitely benefit from sleeping more. Just because they can do it doesn't mean that that's optimal, right? Yeah. I don't care how much more crap you get done, right? It does not matter. You would definitely benefit from sleeping more. You have to freaking sleep.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, man, that stuff drives me insane, man. There was some guy that was like, I'm not gonna bring up any names or anything, whatever. But man, my client was just talking about this guy only sleeps 3 hours a night, and when he's lazy, he sleeps 4 or something like that. I was like, when he's lazy, what? How much more would he get done if he was cognitively better because he slept more? You know what I mean? Like, there's like, for sure, everything would operate better if he was sleeping more. Like, I do not care. It's ubiquitous among all human species. Yeah. You need to freaking sleep. Yeah. So sorry. Anyway,
no, you're totally good. No, I get you. You're very passionate about it, and I respect that. Yeah. No, sleep is a big thing. It's not something we are on the same page on. We are on that.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, I appreciate you sharing. So I think as my final question for you then, kind of on this topic, is just for your own personal, because I know we've talked about like those first 3 steps. So what would you say your personal daily routine looks like for longevity? Like, you know, what do you, obviously, how many hours a night are you sleeping? What is like, you know, your, I would say, daily like diet kind of consist of? How many supplements are you taking? This is very personal, obviously. So like, if you're open to sharing, you can hold back on certain things. You're welcome to share whatever you feel comfortable with.
No, nothing to hold back on at all, except for the sake of time. So I'm a firm believer in meditation every day. I have personally seen massive benefits in my life to doing meditation for many different reasons. So definitely daily meditation, for however long you can feel like you can do it, right? Whatever version you like, you know. Daily meditation, daily exercise in the sense of, are you walking your dogs, right? Like I like to walk my dogs. I ride my bike pretty much, you know, everywhere I go, or as often as I can, you know. Given that you're going to be exposed to exhaust when you're riding on the streets and everything, right? You know, I actually have a mask that I wear that filters the air. Nice. Right? I take sulforaphane supplements, and I eat broccoli sprouts, right? Because that helps to filter benzene, which is a common carcinogen that's found in high amounts in exhaust, right? You know, I wear my helmet obviously every time that I'm riding, right? So I'm trying to get the benefits of riding the bike while mitigating the
Yes.
negative effects of riding the bike everywhere, you know. I'm a little obsessive, obviously. I have two different toothpastes that I use. I have one toothpaste that's fluoridated, right? Remember us talking about this?
Yes.
So I have a fluoride toothpaste, which
Yeah.
is the Arm & Hammer Advanced White, right? And so I use that for preventing cavities and all that kind of stuff, right? I also have Invisalign in, so I have to brush my teeth like 4 or 5 times a day every time I eat or drink anything. Which is beneficial, actually. I'm not too opposed to it. I think I'll continue doing this even when I don't have these in. But then I have there's a brand called Rise Well, which is like promotes mineralization and it's good for the microbiome in your mouth. So the oral microbiome. So I brush my teeth with that the other 3 times of the day. I go outside, and when I do my morning meditation, I do it in the sunlight so that I'm absorbing the sun rays, especially in the early part of the day and everything, right? I try to get as much sun as I can. I am trying to put on a little more muscle mass, so I have a high protein diet, obviously, right? Most people should have what would be considered a high protein diet to some extent, right?
Yeah.
But depending on what your goals are, you might be eating more or less or whatever, right? So I consume a lot of that. I consume as many whole foods, as many plants and fruits and vegetables as I can every day with every meal. Along with lean protein sources most of the time. I'm not super stringent. You know, I'll have pizza or cake or whatever, you know what I mean? But if I'd say about 90% of the time I'm on the good category, but if people are aiming for 70 to 80% of the time, that's still okay for everyone at home, you know?
Yeah.
I concentrate very highly on the relationships that are in my life. So I'm trying to show up as best I can, not only for my clients and, you know, because those are mainly my friends, right? So we have the benefit of having a very social job, and people are always happy to see you, and you get to joke around and help them improve their health. We're always learning new things. So
Very true.
I'm trying to learn something new every single day, right? No matter what that is. If it's something new about myself, if it's something new about my job and my career, if it's something new about my spouse, or my friends or something like that, I'm always trying to input new information. So I'm just constantly challenging my brain. I show up to my relationship as if we just started dating, in the sense of like, what can I do that's new to not only keep it exciting for her and for myself, you know, but I think that with the relationship component, and this is true with friends and family and all this stuff as well, right? We just get so used to their presence being around. I had a couple people that were very close to me die within the last like few years and everything, you know, and so it made me more appreciative about the people that are around, and it made me really focus on the fact that if there were things that I wish that I could have done, I don't want there to be other relationships in my life where I have that. So I'm always trying to focus on what else can be done. And that effect has meant that all of my relationships have gotten deeper with the friends that I keep close, and the parents and my sisters and my brother and you know, my family on my wife's side, and with her as well, obviously, right? You know, so it helps me and it helps them, obviously. So that's been a big focus for me as well. And then getting outside and into nature. So that's what the sun component as well, right? But that's part of riding the bike as well, right? Like for me, the being outside thing, if I sit inside for a day, right? Like on one of my weekend days when I'm doing a lot of school or I'm doing something like that, right?
Yeah.
I feel different. Like there's just something missing, right? If I just go outside and I just ride my bike around the block, or like I go for a walk with the dog or something like that, just being outside, I'm like, oh, that missing feeling isn't there anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's something about it. So, I mean, you know, we could go down a rabbit hole, just have a whole podcast on the benefits of being in nature one day, you know, but so I try to make sure that I'm hearing the breeze and smelling the flowers and doing all these things, right? So I feel like the more I show up with gratitude from a spiritual sense to every day, the more things that life gives me, whether that's God or the universe or whatever you want, right? But the more things that are given to me to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just this this perpetual cycle, so gratitude practices, whether it's in my meditation or just being aware of what's going on outside and around me and everything, or my relationships or anything, but gratitude is a major component for me. And my health span.
Yeah. That's
obviously. And then the supplements that I'm taking right now, I of course have a whey isolate that I take, just make sure I'm getting my protein goals met. I have CoQ10, which is the main reason why I take it. There's other benefits, but the main reason I take it is because I want to have as much mitochondrial density as possible. So it kind of effectively lowers the bar for how much of that mitochondrial density you can promote, right? Which we could talk about that. I think we talked about it a little bit last time with the mitochondria. The energy centers of your cells, basically. I take omega-3. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of omega-3s. I take them in a pretty high dose. It's about 3 grams or more collectively a day of EPA and DHA. So it's 4 to 5 grams of the actual fish oil itself.
Yeah.
Right? I take some digestive enzymes because I'm eating in a calorie surplus because I'm trying to put on weight, so because of that, I'm eating in very high levels of certain macronutrients.
Yes.
So I'll take digestive enzymes to help promote the assimilation and utilization of what I'm consuming and the breaking it down. I take a magnesium supplement in the evenings. I just happen to take a bisglycinate, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of lends itself more towards that unwinding effect of the central nervous system. I find that it helps me sleep consistently through the night better since I had started taking it a long time ago. I make sure that we said last time, right, that I sleep with rhythm. So I have a lot of regularity built into when I sleep. So I try to go to bed at about 10 to 10:30 every single night.
Yeah.
And I wake up without my alarm clock it's been, I don't even know, probably about 8 months now since I started doing that, and I never have an alarm clock when I wake up. I will set one just in case.
Yes.
But I wake up, I feel refreshed, everything's good every morning. So I make sure that I'm optimizing my sleep all the time. Even when we travel, I make sure, okay, I bring a pillow with me from home too, because there's an olfactory component to your ability to fall asleep, right? So I'll bring pillows with me. I'm obsessed with the sleep factor for sure.
Yeah.
And then my strength training routine is based off of calisthenics.
Okay.
So I like when I see gymnasts doing workouts and things like that, seeing a massive back squat or bench press or something like that, right, is impressive, but I've never been like, I wish I could do that. You know? It just doesn't care. I don't care as much about that stuff, even though the strength component is huge.
Yes.
I care about being able to do cool looking things, right? So
that's fair. That's fair. You can't,
So I've developed, my middle splits and front splits, I've working on things called dragon squats, right? Which are these cool, wild. They're freaking crazy. Yeah, my vertical jump is at 50 inches now, I have
just in the best shape of your life.
You just try it, you know what I mean? Yeah, they're like, okay, when you're in your 30s, you max out. That's your ceiling. So I was like, oh shit, all right,
time to get there.
I got 4 more years to go. So
yeah.
So anyway, so I'm trying to make sure that I feel good with all that stuff, but I definitely bring in a free weight component to my workouts as well, But my main thing is centered around just body mechanics and making sure that I feel optimal in every position, and all that kind of stuff, whatever, which is why I like that style so much. Along with stretching and yoga, I stretch or do some kind of yoga probably 5 days a week.
Okay.
I think that covers
the
majority of it. I'm sure that there's little weird things mixed in there as well that I'm forgetting, but I do have coffee every day. So it's varying amounts, know. I don't take it. I don't need it to wake up. I find that I'm just sharper. I feel good. I love the smell and taste of coffee. I drink most of it black, I'm just, yeah, dude.
You lost me there.
I am obsessed. Yeah, you can put milk in it, bro. It's fine. I won't tell anybody. But I'm obsessed with coffee, so I enjoy it very much. So that's why I take it. I can spend days without it, so I'm not too worried about the addiction component of it. But I think that covers the majority of it.
Awesome.
Hopefully that wasn't too long.
No, that was great. Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing.
For sure, buddy.
No, I loved it. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that kind of wraps it all up. I really appreciate you coming on here. This was a great time. I'm glad we got to do this little 2-part thing.
Heck yeah, me
Definitely
too.
going to want to have you back on again one of these days. So
I would love that.
we'll stay in contact. Obviously, it's not hard to find you. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your insights and kind of what your experience has been in this field and all the stuff that you've been learning. And I'm excited to continue learning myself. So I'm excited to learn about all these new things and hear about all the new things that you find out as well as all the other guests that I look forward to having on this. But yeah, for now, I really appreciate you coming in. It's been a blast. It's been an honor. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Same to you, my friend.
Thank you, buddy.
Heck yeah, buddy. Absolutely.